Imagine if you were, I don't know, in a fighting rink, like 4 guys on team 1, 4 guys on team 2. They're supposed to come together and they're supposed to just battle for the crown. Be football, maybe like a martial arts scene, be like whatever you want. And then you guys go in as a team and you do that. And then one guy shows up and he goes, "Well, we lost and I feel like you disrespected me." We call that in martial arts. Means your skill were not good enough. You have lost control of your emotions. You've been a liability for yourself. You are a liability for us. Bobby over there lost a tooth because of you, because you decided to bitch out in the middle of a conversation. Or in the middle of a fight, in the middle of a confrontation, and you got caught up in your feelings. That is why we control them, because you never know when this is going to hit the fan, especially in business. Any day could be your last day. It could be a lawsuit, okay? It could be a banking crash. Your best guy can quit. Your contractor can get hit by a car. Anything can happen. And that's why you always have to be on your toes.
You could even spiral it to law enforcement and military. Your partner comes with feelings that day. You trust them to watch your back?
If they're bringing information to me and saying, hey, this is something that's happening, then to preserve the long-term health of the relationship, I would say, okay, tell me more about that. Tell me what's going on here. And then walk them through and build a more resilient relationship.
You have a raid that's going to hit in 30 minutes that you got to go do.
Now, if the person's that wildly dysregulated and they're collapsing into their feelings, whole different conversation. That's an entirely different conversation. If they walk in and say, this is something that's happening in our relationship.
But their head's over there and we're here.
But this is what's fascinating. All I said was the person walks in and says, hey, this happened in a business meeting.
Yeah.
You guys are now taking it to, we are about to fight to the death in a raid that's immediately happening, and you are forcing me at gunpoint to talk.
But how's that any different than business? It's 2 against 1. You're screwed, right?
That's totally fine, and that's fine. I'm happy to have this conversation. You guys are escalating it to such an overwhelming volume, and I'm wondering where that's coming from in particular, because it costs you very little to stop in that moment and say, okay, talk to me about this. What made you feel that way?
Yeah.
Even if you navigate through that conversation with that person, use it as important data. Like, okay, so if this happens, it disrupts my cycle. Okay, so if I say this to you, I now have to spend an hour dealing with this. Cool. How can I navigate this differently and speak to you differently?
Yeah, so you're basically conditioning him towards weakness. You're conditioning him to be a little bitch in the middle of a meeting. The next time is going to come back twice as bad, because that is positive reinforcement. He knows the next time he crumbles into a whiny piece of shit.
How do you maintain long-term relationships?
You got to compound that. Don't forget the $1,000 an hour.
$1,000 an hour. So it's true. There's $1,000 an hour.
Now we have 3 hours on the same topic.
Okay, so is there a way to run a business long-term and maintain those good relationships if every time somebody walks in and says, hey, this is an experience I'm having, you immediately shut them down that hard?
Yeah. So basically what you have to do is you have to have a system set in place for how you communicate. So you could absolutely have this conversation, but the guy is supposed to roll and say, hey, man, so I want to talk to you after hours. Let's go to a bar, let's go outside. And I'm going to say that what happened there was not productive, right? You actually took me down in front of those guys. You actually damaged their company. You damaged my impression. I'm not cool with that. This is what I need to do afterwards. So before you talk about feelings, it's fine, but it cannot be the only thing, and you must master them first, right? You master them and come up with a solution and say, look, if you do this again, I'm going to knock your teeth out in that meeting. If you do that again, I'm going to walk out. Mm-hmm. If you do that again, I'm not signing this contract. There always has to be some form of confrontation. So every confrontation, every fight has to have a consequence. Otherwise, you're breeding worse behavior. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I have a follow-up question.
Please.
Do you feel in business, high level, not mom and pop business, but a decent sized business, that when you walk into the door for the day, you've toggled the switch where there is no emotion, no feelings, and you're strictly on the side of logical brain, this to this to this to this, and when you leave to go home to your family, you turn that other switch back on?
I'll give you this example. If you take the way that every elite and every historically successful nation has operated, let's take the British Navy, for example. They have a strict code of etiquette. They have a strict code of communication. They cannot raise their voice. They have to dress to the T. They have to look perfect. There's no emotion on a ship. And they're like that for months, if not years, and that is the epitome for them, because that means survival, right? What they do after they're off and they're internal in their quarters, their connection, with God, their connection with their spouse, their connection with their friends is different. But exactly that, you're supposed to walk in, you're supposed to turn off that
So
emotion.
they've toggled the switch.
They toggle the switch, and what they do is that data, it's not wasted, but it's collected for later, right? You can process that emotion after the fact, but you shouldn't be processing in the middle of something else. You cannot afford to be that distracted. That's what they teach. That's why it works. That's why they've conquered so many parts of the world. That's why they've built huge corporations and huge entities from which we still are descendants. Right? That is what they teach the elites in business school and in boarding school. They teach you that. In the highest level boarding schools, there is still physical punishment to this day to show you the immediate consequence of your action, because they know if they don't hit you when you're young, you're going to make that mistake. You're going to cost somebody their life, right? That's not a price you want to pay.
If you like this clip, I know you're going to enjoy the full episode. You can watch it right here.